Solving using the quadratic formula. For the general quadratic equation, ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0, the solutions can be given by the quadratic formula. X is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. We could derive this formula by solving the general quadratic by completing the square. All we have to do is the following. Identify the values of a, b and c for a given quadratic, substitute into the formula, and evaluate if necessary. We may leave it as exact answers and we might give them as calculated answers. So we're going to start by solving these quadratics using the formula. So compare this with ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0. And I can see that a is equal to 1, the coefficient of x squared is 1, b is equal to 8, and c is equal to negative 3. Now substitute into the formula. So x is negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, all divided by 2a. So b is 8, so we want minus b here, so that's going to be negative 8, plus or minus the square root of 8 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 3, all over twice a, and of course a is 1. Now when I do this process, I always make sure that I calculate what's under the square root next. So I've got 8 squared, take away 4, multiplied by 1, multiplied by negative 3. And that gives me 76. So I've got minus 8 plus or minus the square root of 76 all over 2. Now let's just go for calculated answers this time. So that's negative 8 plus root 62 over 2, and negative 8 take away root 62 over 2. So we've just got to calculate those. So use the fraction template, and I've got negative 8, add the square root of 62, and divide that all by 2, and that would give me negative 0.06. So negative 0.06, and then we just need to go back and edit the middle there into being a minus, and that gives me negative 7.94, giving my answers to 2 decimal places. Comparing this one, we can see that a is equal to 3, b is equal to negative 6, and c equals negative 2. So Substituting into the formula, we have negative b. This b is negative 6, so it's going to be positive 6 plus or minus the square root of negative 6 squared, and make sure you square all of the negative 6 like that. Take away 4 times a times c, all divided by 2 lots of a. Now in the usual way, I like to calculate the under the square root next. So I'm just going to bring the calculator over here. So negative 6 squared, I know that's going to be 36. And then we're going to have minus 4 multiplied by 3 multiplied by negative 2 so that's going to give me 60. So I have 6 plus or minus the square root of 60, all divided by 6. So our roots are 6 plus root 60 over 6, and 6 take away root 60 over 6. And let's calculate those. So use a fraction template, and I have 6, add the square root of 60 divided by 6, and that gives me 2.29. And then all we need to do is go back and edit the plus sign there, make it into a minus, and that gives me negative 0.29, giving both of those two decimal places. We've seen this example a couple of times now, but let's look at it with the quadratic formula. So to get rid of this x on the bottom, we're going to multiply both sides by x. No problem with doing that. And then of course over here those x's cancel, so I've got x squared plus 4x is equal to 12, and so x squared add 4x take away 12 is equal to 0. So comparing with ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0, we can see that a is equal to 1, b is equal to 4, and c equals negative 12. So the quadratic formula is minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So that's going to be minus 4 plus or minus the square root of 4 squared take away 4 times 1 times negative 12 all over 2 lots of 1. So negative 4 plus or minus the square root of, so 4 squared is 16, take away 4 multiplied by 1 multiplied by negative 12. Too many brackets there somewhere. Negative 12, that's better. Oh, I've got too many minuses now. And that gives me 64. So all divided by 2. The square root of 64 is 8, so that's negative 4 plus or minus 8 over 2. Which dividing by 2 is negative 2 plus or minus 4. So we have negative 2 plus 4 or negative 2 take 4, which gives us 2 or negative 6.